10:45, I think. I
It
just
is what
did a
it
quick
is. It is
video.
what it is. We are living in 2025. A lot of people catch the replay. A lot of people do what they got to do. Welcome, welcome,
True, true.
early morning, folks. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Again, the consistency, what we do over here in the Move Swiftly world. We don't mess around. When I say we're going to do something on a weekly basis, we do not mess around. As you can see, I'm in a newer location today. I'm actually could be potentially getting trading in a new car. So I had to kind of yeah, flip my location a little bit to accommodate to get there right after this and all that good stuff. So before I go any further, it's your first time listening to anything I do. Let me introduce myself as one Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current five-time published author and educator, here to give you the lessons on teamwork. What I've done, what I've created is a business that's all about taking the lessons that I learned as a football player on teamwork and applying it to businesses. Today, as you always, Miss Kimberly, welcome to the show. Introduce, go ahead.
I am Kimberly with Art and HR Solutions. I'm not as eloquent as the slide here, but I seek and inspire business owners to be better. That's it. Do better, be
Yes.
better.
Yes, and listen to me. Nowadays, and I strategically do these right after I attend church. That's just how I've been living ever since we started this. And what I have been learning, what I actually just picked up on, he preached one powerful sermon in terms of leaning on God's understanding and not leaning on your understanding. And everything we do nowadays with social media, with the world, with the virtual world that we've been forced to adapt to, people want authenticity. People don't want you coming on camera and saying, hey, I am this when you're not that. People don't want you to be listening to anything that is not coming from the heart, coming from the soul, coming from a place where you generally are where someone else is leaning towards or whatever. So when you say you're not as
Mm.
eloquent, hey, there's people listening that may not be as eloquent. There was a time where I wasn't as eloquent doing these things. And that's really what you should be viewing. I'm on one today, guys. Trust me. I mean, when you catch me after these, I know I'm like this. You may feel like I'm like this
All
all
the
the time,
time, Hassan. You're
but
like this all the time.
you catch me after one of these sermons, boy. Woo! As I'm preaching, we only 2 minutes in. All right, so today we have a whole lot to talk about, because I will admit the student kind of became the teacher this week. Me and Kim were able to chat a little bit throughout the week, and I send her stuff. I normally send her videos and clips and stuff like that to ponder on, that's going to discuss a certain topic or whatever. But this time it was the reverse. She actually sent me a video of someone that I personally had never heard about. As much self-development work as I do, as much as I listen to a lot of these motivational people, this was someone that I had never heard of. And I believe it was a Wednesday, right? That she
Hmm.
sent it to me. Yeah, so she sent me this
Yes.
on a Wednesday. And for those of you guys who don't know or don't keep up with my work this regularly, that following Thursday was a big, big day in terms of so I teach at the school named the Center for Creative Education. It's a startup school out here in West Palm Beach, and it's donor based. So it's a department. It's not like your typical school where you just guaranteed money from the government. There's actual full-time jobs that are to go and get donors, get money out of people that are in this West Palm Beach area. And if you've been out here, it's loaded. You got folks loaded with a capital L. All right, loaded. And we had a huge luncheon this past Thursday where it was a room full of these folks who were loaded. And the feature of the event was a guy named Tommy Hilfiger, who was actually at the school, and the students interviewed him and the whole thing. And it was a great, great event. And you sent me that the day before, and there was a lot of thoughts that I had in terms of how the event actually went. There was pieces of me that felt a little slighted by my superiors and by the people that I work with, that I wasn't involved, seeing that I go live every single day, and I'm the only one in the entire building that has a show. But we'll leave that for another topic. The point of me bringing this up is, when she sent me this, when she said, I'll show you guys we'll show you guys the clip in a second, and then we'll kind of debunk it. But she showed me this. There's a point there where you have to understand that everybody has their intention. Everybody has something that they want to be doing. And if you stay focused on and kind of have some empathy towards people, you'll start to realize what a person's intentions are. So I guess before I play the clip, I'll let you kind of address that any kind of way you want, and then we'll play the clip and kind of go from there.
it's all about, we talk about focus and motivation, which is
Hmm.
today's topic. Are not always motivated, but
Hmm.
you should always be focused. So even if you have to take a step back and redirect yourself,
Hmm.
um, you just have to stay focused because motivation goes away. It's all about
Hmm.
discipline. And
Yes.
so we'll go to the clip and then we'll dive in.
Okay.
They know that he didn't go work on a brief. They know that he just didn't want to get his freaking hands dirty. Or when it's time to pick up brass, and it's like, well, gents, I've got to head back for a meeting. They know that you can get out of that meeting. They know that 100%. And you think that they don't, and it's just absolutely terrible. So you should, in your mind, kind of like when I talk about leadership capital, like you should walk around like your bank account's almost empty. You should act as if the intent of what you're doing is printed on your forehead, right? That's how you should act. You should act like, if I'm going to skip picking up the brass.
All right, so there's more that she sent, but I had to cut it right there because I'm a firm believer in intention. All right, and when you thinking about the word intention, this is again a topic that is not going to be brought up in the school system. You're going to have to learn intention the really hard, nasty, disgusting way if you really
Yep.
want to be successful. And it's going to hurt. It's going to be really, really hurtful when you learn the real intentions of a person. And this carries over in every walk of life, your relationships, your romantic relationships, personal relationships, how you got a certain job, the look of how you got a certain job. The whole thing is a complete it's a truth. It's like a truth bomb that really blows up in your face when you realize, hey, there's certain people who have their intentions, and that's the only reason that they're even affiliated with me and all that kind of stuff. So the
Yes.
question I have in order to kind of start off today's in terms of staying motivated and make sure we're staying on track here is when you are felt with that truth, when you're hit with that truth, like I had expressed to you earlier, like I alluded to, in terms of I know my worth. And actually, before I even ask the question, let me show you guys a picture. This was the scene right here. This was the scene. This past Thursday. All right. This top picture is we have 3 fourth grade kids who happen to be the students that I work with directly because I'm usually with the fourth graders. I knew Zane. I knew 2 of these 3 kids. I knew them when they were in second grade when I first started teaching at the school. And to see them grown, 3 black kids in a room full of billionaires interviewing the billionaire, the man that said, I listen, I just did 10 billion. I'm saying this with a B, folks. I did $10 billion in sales. To have these 3 students actually there hold their own and interview them in a room full of other billionaires was incredibly, incredibly rewarding. And it was rewarding to see, and it led me to want to talk about it, or I have to talk about it the next day and really give my full thoughts. So you guys can go check out that video on your own and all that. But what I want to ask you is when it came to how I was feeling before I saw that, and it was kind of a rewarding feeling. I was feeling very like, hey, why didn't you involve the person that actually has a podcast, that also has books, that also actually has the stuff that you're portraying to these folks? Why didn't you ask me to do it? I felt slighted by it, but then I saw the way it turned out, and my intention, so to speak, that's why it hit so much. My intention changed from the fact that, wait a minute, maybe it ain't about Aswan so much. Aswan has his platform. He's going to do his thing regardless. Maybe it's about those kids and giving them an experience and, kind of the cherry on top. And I'll bring you in a second. But the cherry on top, Kimberly, was that girl, Namiko, that I just mentioned. As we walked upstairs, she looks at me, she goes, Mr. Aswan, are you proud of me? And I was moved by that. You know what I'm saying? And forget about how I felt about the way the adults handled it. Everything was forgiven. It was almost like last week when Michigan beat Ohio State. 5 losses are forgiven. We're good. Y'all beat Ohio State. So I'll let you address that because I know everyone can't see it that way. And when you're talking HR, it can be so challenging to see the silver lining when we're talking about these things.
It is, and it's interesting because when you sent me that picture, I was like, oh, look at a swan go. I saw you in that picture,
Yes.
even though you weren't in that picture,
Yeah.
because you seek to inspire people, and you did.
Yeah.
Look at what you did as a leader with these 3 kids.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what leadership is. You may not you may not be directly involved in something, as far as on camera, you weren't interviewing, but you were, because your inspiration to kids. And so that's really, what it is when Dr. Wilnick said it should be stomped on your forehead.
Of course, we got some technical difficulties here. We lost Kimberly for a second. Let me see if she texts us back. Hold on 1 second, folks. Oh,
I think I'm back. Am I back now?
you are back. Go ahead. You started freezing around. I think the last thing we heard. Let me check this down. Last thing we heard was, oh yeah, when you first saw the picture. I'll show you again.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, you were going, man.
Okay.
I didn't want to mess it up. So yeah, when you first saw this, so
Okay. So what I saw, I was just like, oh, go with Swan,
Mhm.
because that's what I saw. I saw you in that picture.
Yes.
And so it's inspiring for me because, as a leader, we may not always be in the forefront because it isn't about us. It is about what we are producing. And what you're producing are these three kids who
Mhm.
made you proud. And that's really what was on their minds. Did I make you proud? And
Right.
that's all you. And that's what being a
Mhm.
leader is about. It's not always being in the forefront, it's being behind, coaching,
Mhm.
developing, and
Mhm.
you're teaching them discipline, which is
Mhm.
what leadership really is, and staying motivated is.
Yes.
So,
And also too, and I want to make sure I mention this and also get your input on this, is it starts from what's working within you. Because this was, and I've, you guys, regular listeners, you guys, I've been around the block. I've had some really, I'm working on my SHITTY managers and bosses and business owners and folks that I've dealt with that really, really drive me crazy. And what the underlining theme and the kind of the common denominator amongst all of them is they got to a point where they're only doing something for the money. They've lost all their sense of this is my mission. This is where I want to go in life. This is how I want to be. This is my what I want my legacy to be. And they've more so focused on this is just how I'm going to pay my rent this month. This is how I'm going to pay my mortgage this month. This is how I'm going to go do whatever it is I'm going to do this month. And what I realized in that moment, especially if I'm being honest, I'm calling myself out, is that I could be slipping down that mentality of, hey, it should have been about Aswan. Aswan needs to be involved. Aswan's the only teacher here that's an author. It should have been all about Aswan. And instead, it was meant, you know what? You're at this school for a reason. You're specifically here for this reason, so you can actually be the bridge to let these fourth grade kids realize the magnitude in what they did. Because the folks who set it up are not going to do it. They can't do it. They have no proof. You can look them up and you can look Aswan up and you can see two completely different brands and different groups of people. Aswan's the only one that can actually walk these fourth grade students through the high school years, the college years, when they're going to have difficulty figuring out what their first job is going to be. He literally has all that documented. And all of these things started rushing towards me when I realized, you know what, instead of being selfish, let's focus on the mission of what it is you're trying to do. And when it comes to HR and what you coach people on, when it comes to the who you hire and how you process, or all the things that people come to you with, how do you get them to see that? How do you get them to see that mission focused element to it before the money starts to just get cloudy in terms of what the hell it is they started doing this? They started doing whatever it is they're doing in the first place.
so let me ask you something. What did you learn?
What I learned is I didn't learn it probably until my pastor just said it, but I learned to stop leaning on as one's understanding. Really start focusing on God's understanding and an intuition and a bigger picture as a bigger picture. That's what I learned. It's almost like and these are like things that were covered up in me deep as a child, but there were situations where, you'd be, since we're talking Christmas, there'd be situations where you would think that, my dad would be the one bringing in most of the money, but because he's buying the gifts, but my mother's money would be going towards paying the mortgage. And I didn't learn that until you grow up and you realize, okay, there's a balance here. So I guess the short answer to your
Yes.
question, you asked a loaded one, but as I learned balance in terms of going after your mission, your goals, and your dreams.
So what you're talking about is that you
Mhm.
learn from your failures.
Yeah.
You didn't keep doing the same thing and expecting the same result. You stopped and you reevaluated where you were
Hmm.
and realized your why, and then you kept
Yes.
going doing it. And
Yes.
that's exactly what I teach. You have to just take a step back.
Hmm.
Failure is not a bad thing. You actually learn so much from failure. That was a very, very hard lesson for myself. I do not like to fail. Okay.
Hmm.
I am not a failure type of person. But now if I fail, I'm like, oh, okay. What did I learn from that? I just don't brush it aside. I dig in and say, what did I
Hmm.
learn? And what am I going to do better next time?
Right.
And then if I have to refocus, redirect, pivot, whatever you want to call it, to a new plan, that's what
Hmm.
I teach. I teach it because I've been through it. So I know
Yes.
it's
So
successful,
what
you
are
know.
some examples that you can share about times that you failed? I ask this again, folks, bear with me because again I'm fresh off of a sermon. All right, I'm on one. But Pastor Groeschel, the pastor that I've been listening to every Sunday for the past 3 or 4 months, however long it's been, he talked about his failures just now. He genuinely talked about his failures. He goes, look, I have 6 kids, there's 6 marriages, there's certain things that him and his wife are still hoping to do, so many things. And the comfort and the peace that I felt in that moment when it comes to this guy who has this colossal brand, like, well over 45 different locations, this global pastor, me as an aspiring speaker and doing the, seeing the work that he's doing and wanting to do that one day. When he talked about his failure, I felt a sense of relief and like, oh my God, people like that can fail too. They're humans too. And he kind of joked around about it a little bit. But when you mention times that you failed, you can go into detail a little bit because it's going to bring people more closer to your world.
Yeah, I could tell you a million things that I've failed at, but I think, one that comes to mind is that just because we have an idea doesn't mean that it's the best idea ever.
Mhm.
We think it's the best idea for
Yeah.
like you and your podcast. You should be the one up front, right?
Hmm.
Well, I remember one time at work, I'm like, well, I should be the one training the team because I'm a great
Hmm.
trainer,
Yeah.
so why is this? So I was pretty upset that I wasn't chosen to be the
Hmm.
trainer. But then what I found out later and being part of the training itself is that I learned so much from that. So I wasn't meant to be the trainer because I needed to learn something at that time. But at the
Hmm.
moment, I was mad. I was really pissed off, honestly.
Hmm.
And when you talk about God's plan and your understanding, I mean, that's what it is. He
Hmm.
has a plan, and it may not align with ours, but it's not about me, me, me. Because
Hmm.
as leaders, we have to understand it's about our teams, not
Hmm.
about us at all. And I think that was a really humbling lesson for me,
Hmm.
because we think that we're number one in something, and we realize we can learn something from anyone at any
Hmm.
level. It doesn't matter. And it was a younger person too, who
Hmm.
hadn't had a lot of training. I'm like, well, they can't teach me anything,
Hmm.
but they did,
Hmm.
and so we have to keep our minds open,
Hmm.
to being able to learn from anyone and anything. And it's okay saying that I'm wrong, but don't
Right.
stay there. Get up,
Right.
learn your lesson, and then be different.
Hmm. So just for a refresher, can you speak to us a little bit about the typical clients that you serve in the HR world as well? And I ask that because the problems that we're talking about are something that I just think are natural. When you, as an adult, you're going after things, and one of the things I remember actually telling a lot of students is when you graduate from college or you graduate from school, when you're done with school in general, that access to people, it shuts off. It's like a faucet; it completely shuts off. And now you, if you're not careful, you get to move into a very lonely place. Now I get it. Nowadays we have YouTube, we have a tons of things that can make you feel like you're not alone on the because of the internet. But still, the human to human interaction is fading, and it's fading really quickly. So when you leave school and you start to really say, "Oh, I'm good at this. I'm good at this. I'm good at this," you really lose sight of being a part of an overall mission, overall goal. So just so a refresher, can you just speak on the people that you strive to serve every day, the typical person that you try to serve every day?
So leaders, whether it's HR leaders, I've worked with, or operations leaders, CEOs.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's personal branding. Sometimes it's okay. I'm hitting a wall. I've been doing projects this way, and it's doesn't seem to be working anymore. Well, that's because the
Mhm.
world of work is changing.
Yeah.
And so when you're talking about businesses, anywhere from small to large businesses, and
Mhm.
coaching, development, and especially leadership training, that has been
Okay.
the biggest, I think, component. I do other things too, such as
Right.
recruiting, retention, but so far to date, it's been a lot of leadership training because we
Mhm.
got to think differently. The
Right.
world of work is changing. You've heard me say that before. If
Mhm.
we don't stay up, especially with the new generation coming in the workforce, we are
Mhm.
now at a time where we have 5 generations in a workforce. How do you blend them together to a cohesive team? And that's what I've been seeing out there as far as where the struggle is, because never before in the workforce has there's been 5 generations that you're trying to blend together. One is very technology savvy, the other not so much. So how do you raise that bar and have them meet in the middle?
And would you say that the common denominator to their problem is kind of similar to what I expressed earlier? And if it is, because I don't want to just use myself as an example. I'm asking because I don't want to just make it all about me. I'll be contradicting the very thing I'm telling you guys not to do. Could you speak to a little bit of some of the other problems that you may have heard from them, and then that are similar, that mirror mine, and then how exactly do you teach them to take the steps towards solving those problems? Because for me, the whole going to church thing, it came from a place where it's like, look, at this particular stage, being alone in Florida, being out here in West Palm Beach, I'm from Maryland, not knowing anyone, God is literally the only place that you can turn to with these problems. You don't have
Yeah.
any other option. God is the only one that's going to listen to all of the problems that you have. And you guys get it. You guys may think you hear a lot of them, but you get like really literally highlights of everything that I mentally work through every single day in order to do what it is I do. So
Hey, it's not easy. I'm going to tell you, people think they, owning a
yeah.
business and getting after it every day is easy. No, it
Hmm.
breaks you down to your core, and then it builds you back up. Like,
Right.
don't think that we're not on our knees 90% of the time, and we get
Hmm.
back up and we get after it and we do
Yeah.
it. One of my favorite things from Jocko is good. Okay, you failed. Good. Okay, that
Right.
didn't work out. Good. Why? Because
Right.
it teaches us things. It teaches us the tenacity and the discipline to keep going.
Hmm.
And that gets me excited, right? I'm
Right.
here alone in Virginia Beach. It's me and my dog. That's it.
That's it.
Athena has
That's
heard
what
all my
attracted. That's kind of
problems.
what attracted us, right?
Huh?
No, I'm saying that's kind of what attracted me to your world is to know that you're doing it and you don't see the family around you, but you're figuring it out as you go.
Yeah, it really. And I pivot as much as I can. But to answer your question about common things, people, the leaders that I've worked with are stuck. So, for example, I have a client that he wanted to fix the culture. So, it was for employee engagement. He has high turnover.
Hmm.
And, so before I even jump into the turnover piece, it's great. I can look at reports, but let's look at the supervisors. But it starts at the top. So I said, so
Hmm.
what is your thoughts about people? And it's an old school mindset. And
Hmm.
again, doing those things, same things. I said, but is it working for you now? It worked 20 years ago, right? But is it
Mhm,
working right now? Well, no, that's why I called you. Okay. So
mhm,
how open are you really to change? Because honestly, if they're not willing and open to do something different, it's not going to work. I could teach them everything I want, right?
mhm.
And at first, a lot of pushback when I suggested things. That's not going to work. I'm like, really? Well, here's some information that worked before in the same industry.
Mhm,
It showed case studies and white papers, and
mhm.
that's not going to work because it's that same mindset. They're stuck and they don't want to change.
Right.
Finally, started becoming open. And once they started doing that, they saw a shift. Sometimes this shift is not, we talked about this earlier, is slow. It's not as fast. It's not instant all the time.
Right.
And then some things, blew up, and you could immediately feel a difference in the air and the atmosphere. People
Mhm,
started getting excited again,
mhm.
and they felt like their voices heard. And at the end of the day, people want to be heard. They want to
Yes.
be understood. They want to feel like they matter.
Yes.
And if we can't show them that as leaders, then they'll go somewhere where they feel like they do matter.
Yes, and the only thing, because we're running low on time here, so I want to make sure I explain this too. The only thing I would add to that at all is your circle, guys. I mean,
Oh,
your
100%.
circle of people are going to be so incredibly vital for you. Had I not had the Kimberly to go through, given the week I had with, again, I am going into my school and I'm lashing out on all of these people. If I didn't have the students that actually listen to it here too, I'm lashing out on all of them. I'm giving them my, F you all because you guys didn't, look out for me and all that. Like I'm walking around incredibly, incredibly miserable. But the circle of people, wherever you are, it's going to be so important that you have the right pieces. And I'll just close you out with the story because we had it was myself and another colleague. Shout out to Anthony if you're listening. We had the opportunity to have a conversation with Tommy Hilfiger's assistant before, and she was breaking down everything that made it so he even heard about the school. She lives in Long Island, New York, and he lives all over the world at this point, but one of the things that he had said to the kids, and if you don't know what I'm referring to, this right here, where he interviewed, if you're just joining us, but one of the things that Tommy Hilfiger said to the kids was that there was a friend of his, and I'm hoping I'm remembering the name, Telesco. Pretty sure I have that name right. Fact check me if I need to be. But his friend Telesco was telling him about this school for years at this point, years. And she was persistent. She was like, look, you're going to love it. His name is Center for Creative Education. Your entire story, the way Tommy Hilfiger was built, it is exactly what you wanted. And, obviously being as busy as he is, it took him some time to convince him. Now, he came to the school last year. I remember actually meeting him and all that. And what he said to these young people was absolutely life-changing because he said, when you talk about creativity, living in that creative moment, staying innovative, that is the one thing that you have to lean onto that's going to be unique to you. All the other conventional and traditional stuff that the world pushes on you, it won't last because it's for somebody else. This ability to stay creative, it's going to lead to everything that we're talking about right here on this screen. It's going to lead to you staying motivated because it's coming from your own mind and it's coming from your own heart, and you're going to figure it out regardless. Now, if it's not, again, people, like, I want to play the clip one more time. People gonna smell it on you, all right? Because you brought them up. I gotta play the clip one more time. Go ahead, take it
They
away,
know
Jay.
that he didn't go work on a brief. They know that he just didn't want to get his freaking hands dirty. Or when it's time to pick up brass, and it's like, well, gents, I've got to head back for a meeting. They know that you can get out of that meeting. They know that 100%. And you think that they don't, and it's just absolutely terrible. So you should, in your mind, kind of like when I talk about leadership capital, like you should walk around like your bank account's almost empty. You should act as if the intent of what you're doing is printed on your forehead, right? That's how you should act. You should act like, if I'm going to skip picking up the brass because
Cut, damn it. All right. He said like it's
You have
printed
to
on
watch
your
him every
forehead.
day.
Whoa, like it's printed on, and I got news for you.
Yes.
I'll drop the mic with this because I can get going. But kids see your intentions every day. They're not walking around asking how much you make, and they don't care.
They
It's
don't
your
care.
intention that's planted right there, and they see it every single day. And I'll leave it at that for now. So Kimberly, I'll give you the last word today because I can get going.
What?
I will.
Hold on.
You were actually you were the teacher today. You brought the fire today, man. 'Cause I didn't know
Well,
who
I'll
this
tell
guy
you
was
what.
until a couple of days ago.
I have to tell you that it's true. Like I got to just build on what you said, that your
Yes.
circle makes such a big difference. First thing you do is you got to stop and look around. And if someone's not motivating you and pushing
Mm-hmm.
you to be better, you push me all the time to be better.
Yeah.
Derek, my coach, he pushes me. And I'm like,
Yes.
oh, fine. I'm going to go do something different now. And
Yeah.
Jocko says something. He says, get after it.
Yes.
And I keep that right there. Get after it. And
Yeah.
so always have a learning mindset. And I'm going to leave you with this because you said about being creative. I just saw something yesterday. I was trying to think about where I saw it.
Uh-huh.
I think it was like Instagram or something, but it says the reason why we're so creative is because God created the earth.
Mm.
So he told us about himself in Genesis, saying that he is a creative person. And so, therefore, that's why we are creative. And so you got to keep a mindset, and I want you to keep your circle,
Mm-hmm.
the perfect circle that's always motivating you. Stay
Right.
creative and don't quit. Get after it.
Oh, can you guys see it? It's
I,
officially dropping. Mike is officially dropping, folks. Every Sunday we're here. If you guys want to tap in with me more, patreon.com, patreon/as144. Just hold up, let me move this real quick so you guys see it. That's where all the exclusive content will be as we approach this new year. I'll let you put your website and stuff out there, and then we will officially close.
all right.
That's it
ArdenHRSolutions.com.
right there on the screen.
My name is Kimberly. Come on by. Check it out.
All right, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We'll talk more soon.
Bye.